Alright, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, it is time to talk about the saddest moment in sports that I have ever witnessed. No, I'm not talking about Kevin Durant joining the Warriors or the Steve Bartman incident. I'm talking about something more, and this could have been the most magical moment in sports history, and I truly mean that. So without further ado, here's today's topic.
It down, getting around, Zubac at midcourt, launches the shot!
Stop the tape. Let's first start off with the background information to how we got here. Modern day college basketball, dominated by the Kansases, Kentuckys, North Carolinas, and Dukes of the world. So very seldom do you see a small school get this close to the top prize. The year is 2010. Here are Sports Illustrated's projections for Duke and Butler. They had Duke as the 12th best team entering the year, and Butler as the 14th best. Now let's be real here. Butler was not really a Cinderella, and they didn't come out of nowhere. They were a mid-major school that just kept winning. They were honestly the Midwest East Coast version of Gonzaga. The past 2 seasons, Butler was a very good team, and they made the NCAA tournament and were competitive in the 3 games they played. So again, I want to say this team was not out of nowhere, and they were no surprise. They had players. They had the young prodigy in Brad Stevens, and a very well-balanced roster. Having a big with guard skills in Gordon Hayward, who was a legit NBA prospect for them, made them a legit team. And they had 2 sophomore guards in Ronald Norwood and Shelvin Mack that were 2 of the hardest working basketball players I've ever seen. I can't forget about Matt Howard down low, probably my favorite Butler player from back then. So this team had talent, and having Willie Veasley and Sean Van Zandt gave this team a great starting 5, and they had a dedicated bench as well. But what about Duke? Was Duke any good? Well, to the surprise of the younger fans, Duke used to not recruit one and dones. This team was led by John Shire, Lance Thomas, and Brian Zubac, who were seniors, and Nolan Smith and Kyle Singler were juniors, and a sophomore center with Miles Plumlee. This team was strikingly similar to Butler. Their teams looked identical and were extremely balanced at all positions. So let's look at each team's road to the championship. Butler entered the 2010 NCAA tournament with a 28-4 record, with losses to Minnesota, Clemson, Georgetown, and UAB. Duke entered the 2010 NCAA tournament with a 29-5 record, with losses to Wisconsin, Georgia Tech, North Carolina State, Georgetown, and Maryland. Now Butler did not stand out in a lot of categories, but there was one that I will never forget about. This team had a 93.2% minute continuity on KenPom.com, which was #1 in the nation. That meant their starting 5 played the most together. This was a sign of what to expect from them. They had the most unselfish starting 5 in college basketball with great people and players who will fight hard every single possession. Now that Duke team was the #1 offensive team in the nation on KenPom.com to end the season, they had balance and height. They were efficient, and this team was underrated to start the season. So how did they get here? Well, Butler played a great UTEP team and beat them 77-59. And played against the 13 seed Murray State in a close 54-52 game, which booked a Sweet 16 appearance with Syracuse, and the 'Cuse were the #1 seed in the region, and Butler won that game 63-59. Then in the Elite 8, they played a very good Kansas State team and won 63-56. Now in their Final 4, they played Michigan State and won 52-50 versus last year's runner-up, which set up a national championship versus Duke. Now for Duke, they had an easier path due to being a #1 seed. They beat Arkansas Pine Bluff 73-44, then they beat Cal 68-53, and in the Sweet 16 they beat Purdue 70-57, and in the Elite 8 they beat Baylor 78-71, which booked a matchup versus West Virginia, who pulled off an upset versus Kentucky to get to the Final 4. Duke beat them 78-57, which booked a national championship versus David and Goliath. A small school from Indy playing in their hometown versus the big bad Duke Blue Devils, college basketball's biggest power. And that game was a great battle. Duke led at halftime 33-32, and it was a close back and forth game. But with 2 minutes left in the game, Butler was down 5, and they hadn't scored a field goal in 7 minutes and counting. But Matt Howard was able to score twice down low to pull Butler within 1 with 1 minute left. Now let's skip to an inbound with 13.6 seconds left. Gordon Hayward was originally going to inbound the ball to someone else, but called a timeout. And then Coach Stevens made Matt Howard inbound the ball, and gave it straight to Gordon, who Coach Stevens said to him, "Make a play." He started to go left, but decided to go right, and missed his jumper, which he said that was the shot he always hits. Brian Zubac was fouled and shot free throws, and made the first to put them up 2 points with 3.6 seconds left. But Coach K told him to miss the second, and this is what happened.
Not gonna try. It's Hayward pulling it down, getting around Zubac. At midcourt, launches the shot. Oh, it almost went in! Almost went in, and Duke is the king of the dance.
That's what happened. We got that close to seeing the greatest upset in basketball history. In the state of basketball, in the capital of the city, with the hometown team, but they lost. That shot hurts. Like, the first thing is how it rimmed right off, and then the second is how great of a story it was, and for it to just end. Now this will probably go down as the saddest moment in sports that I've ever seen. It was about the story more than anything else. Will we ever see something like this again? I don't know. Probably not. But I will say this was the greatest run I've seen in sports that didn't win a championship. And for how close they got, makes it even more special to look back on.